Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today's the 18th of November 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, also just before we jump into the charts, quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website and specifically our JFD research page, which we update on a daily basis, and I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here. There for yourselves, guys. So feel free to visit us, and that's on jfdbank.com, and then you click on the tab here, research, and yep, it will take you to our page, which we update on a daily basis. So feel free to visit us. Now then, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the FTSE100. I talked about this one last week, basically, and I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on some of these levels. Now, last week, on Friday, we had a nice boost here on FTSE 100, and the index managed to climb back up here. Initially, it kind of dropped in the morning, but then it kind of quickly picked up and ended, and then it somewhere around here. Look on near the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart. Overall, you can see that the index is stuck inside this formation in this potential descending triangle pattern, because we ideally would like to see another test of this upper side of this potential descending triangle, and then maybe a move back down. So these patterns tend to break to the downside. For now, you can see that from the very short-term perspective, it seems that it is willing to travel a little bit higher. That said, we'll be very careful here, because for us to get excited about the upside, ideally we would like to see a push above the 7,350 zone, and only then we will aim for higher levels. And even then, we will target only the previously discussed 7,440 zone, which is marked near the highs of the 27th of September. So again, that's for the upside. For the downside, we're still keeping an eye on this 7,250 zone, but in a way, after kind of last week's activity here, what we could do here is just drop this a little bit here, and we can put this one right here near the 7,245. So this is for those who are a little bit more on the cautious side. So in a way, you could keep an eye on that one. Of course, keep an eye on the 7,250 zone, but just for that extra confirmation, a drop below the 7,245 zone could, in a way, do the trick here for more sellers, because this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and then we could target the area near the 7,140 level. So previously, as you can see, it acted as a fantastic area of support here. So we'll initially target that, and then we'll take it from there. We'll see what it wants to do after. If it wants to travel further down, that's wonderful for the sellers. Then we'll consider some of these lower levels. But for now, we'll keep it short and simple. Again, with the upside, we'll keep an eye on the 7,350 zone, and on the downside, the 7,250 as well, 50. But just like I said, for that extra confirmation, just that little extra 5 points, just we could wait for that one until, and then we will, like I said, a drop below this would kind of would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could target slightly lower areas. Jumping into silver now. I haven't looked at silver for quite a while, and basically looking at this activity here. So I mean, last week it was somewhat a little bit flat here, but the week before that we saw this nice strong decline here to the downside, and in a way you can see that the price is currently balancing near this low here, or near this level, which was the low of the 1st of October, and that's roughly around the 16.87 zone. So this is where the price is currently sat at. So and you can see last week was kind of moving around it, and that's why of course, we're going to keep an eye on this level here, but we'll also keep an eye on the lows and the highs, the low and the high of last week. So in a way, how you could play this one out is just wait until this one gets above, either above the high of last week near the 17.10 zone, and if we do get a push above that level, then yes, we will aim for slightly higher levels. We will initially target this little low here that previously acted as a fantastic area of support on the 6th of November, and that's roughly around the 17.36. Of course, slightly above that, we do have the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. Don't forget that we also have this little kind of tentative downside resistance line here, a short-term one, of course, but nevertheless still a tentative one, and this in a way could also provide a bit of resistance if the commodity decides to travel further north. So in a way, long story short, guys, for now, if you want to consider higher levels, ideally just kind of wait probably for a push above the high of last week, and then yep, we will aim for slightly higher levels. I mean, of course, we'll be very careful here and cautious, because there are a bunch of obstacles here, a bunch of resistance levels that could keep the price down. But in terms of the downside, if let's say this the preceding trend here is to the downside, and this little kind of neutral activity that we saw last week, if the commodity decides to drift lower and drops below the low of last week, this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and of course then we could start aiming for our key, very important level here of support near the 15.90 zone. I do understand it's quite a big of a move here. In a way, we could start looking at something maybe closer a little bit, maybe something like around here, or actually let me reiterate that, somewhere around here basically. And I do understand that's very close, so that's around the 16.50 T1, something like that, roughly around there. But again, just slightly below that as well, we do have some other potential obstacles here, like the 16.24 zone as well. But again, the more important one for us would be this one, the 15.90 zone, and that's the basically marked by the low of the 1st of August. So very important level. But again, we would need to see a drop below the low of last week, and only then we will aim for these slightly lower areas. So the low of last week was roughly around the 16.62, sorry, yep, there we go. So 1662, roughly around there, guys. So that could be your kind of potential breakout point to the downside. But again, until it's kind of balancing inside here, we're going to remain neutral. We're just going to continue observing this one, because it might end up just moving sideways here and forming a nice range. But again, that's a bit of speculation here for you guys. For now, keep your eyes on these levels that I've just mentioned. Quick mentioning of Bitcoin. So not much happening here. The same kind of idea remains, the same falling wedge. The only thing is that the lower side of the wedge got broken, and this is what I was talking about previously last week. So what I was saying, that if we get a drop through the lower side of the wedge, but it fails to move below this little territory right here, the 8,371 zone, 70 is roughly around there. So if it struggles to push below this, then yep, I mean, still will remain cautious. We're not gonna kind of consider any downside, because like I said, this is the level that we need in order to consider some lower areas. But as you can see, the wedge got broken to the downside. It drifted lower, but it never broke below this level here. So what we can do here is basically we can get rid of the idea of a falling wedge for now, because again the lower side was violated, and we can keep this line here. So basically we do have ourselves a nice short-term downside resistance line here, taken from the high of the 25th of October. So let me just quickly extend this a little bit right here. And but even with the upside now, and previously I was talking about this 9,250 zone, now we can actually drop the potential breakout point here a little bit lower, and we're going to keep this around roughly around the 8,850 mark, because at the same time, if we get a push above this level, we would also have a push above all of its EMAs here on the 4-hour chart, and then we could consider these slightly higher areas. So for now, again, like I said, guys, this is we're now dropping this potential breakout point for the upside a little bit lower here. So yep, and if we get a push above the 8,850 zone, then yep, we will aim for the 9,250 or the 9,645. Don't get me wrong, this level still for us remains an important one to watch, but we will keep it aside for now. We're gonna aim for something closer, but again, before we could consider the upside, we need to see a push above the 8,850 level. So let's keep an eye on this one. AUDJPY. Now, I also talked about this one last week, and what I was saying that if this one of these highlighted areas starts breaking, then there is a possibility to consider a further directional move. For now, you can see that the pair on Friday managed to break this downside resistance line, the short-term downside resistance line taken from the high of the 7th of November, and it's now kind of pushing above its 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart, is breaking above this 74.18 level. Everything's kind of leaning more towards the upside on this one, but again, it's for now it seems like it's struggling a little bit. By the way, let's get rid of this downside line because it got violated, so no longer valid. Now the main focus is going to be on just on this level right here, roughly, like I said, roughly near the 74.18 zone. So if we do get a push above that, then yes, we will aim for slightly higher levels. But again, looking at this picture, looking at this kind of lack of excitement here among traders in AUDJPY, to be honest, you could in a way just keep your eyes on the 74.43 zone, because that's a nice area of resistance here, marked by the high of the 13th of November. I should say the inside swing high of, intraday swing high of the 13th of November. If we get a push above this, this would also open the path kind of for higher levels, because it would place the rate above all of its EMAs here eventually, so on the 4-hour chart, of course, and then we could aim for higher levels. The only thing is, like I said, we still are keeping an eye on this level, the 74.18. If we get a push higher, yes, that's wonderful. We will aim for this level first, the 74.43. We'll have a very tight stop loss here just in case this decides to reverse and finds strong resistance near these EMAs and near this barrier right here, and then reverses back down. We've seen this happening several times, so that's why we'll be very careful with the upside here as well. And if for us to consider the downside, for example, well, for today, in a way, you could keep an eye on this pivot, today's pivot, near the 73.98 zone, roughly around there. And if we do see a drop below this pivot, or in a way below the 74 mark, then yep, we will consider possible slide here towards this upside support line, because don't forget that overall we're still above this upside support line taken from the low of the 25th of August. For us to consider deeper extensions to the downside, a drop below the 73.34 level would be needed. So in a way, from the very short-term perspective for today, you could keep an eye on the 74 mark right here next to the pivot, today's pivot. But if we get a drop below this, then yep, we will aim for slightly lower areas. But again, looking at this picture, it seems that it seems that it wants to travel higher. But again, let's keep a close eye on this one. There are a bunch of obstacles here for this one to overcome before it could continue, let's say, pushing more to the upside. So yep, let's keep an eye on this one, guys. GBPJPY, now then, finally exploding to the upside this morning. And look at this beautiful picture here. Now the pound is kind of getting stronger a little bit here. Now this is what I was talked about this last week, and for 2 weeks I kept talking about GBP yen. And I was telling you guys to keep close eye on the potential breakout points, these potential breakout points here, this range. So it's now breaking the upper side of the range and it's kind of traveling higher. It seems that it wants to continue pushing higher. We do have a target near the 141.51 zone, which is marked by the highest point of October, and we'll keep an eye on that one. This is going to be our main target, especially for today. And if it stalls somewhere around here, then it will be very interesting to see if it actually can push further north and can it actually form a new higher high here. If we look at this picture, on the bigger picture here, so because it is right now forming higher highs, but if we get a push above this one, the 141.51 zone, then yep, it could become a little bit more interesting for the buyers, because again, this is a very tricky spot. Yes, on one hand we are breaking this range here, it is pushing higher, but this is another important obstacle to keep in mind, this 141.51. So if that one gets cleared, now this could be opening, and it could be opening the path towards even higher levels. So let's keep an eye on this one. In terms of the downside, it seems that the downside is slightly off the table, but for us to consider the downside, well, still the same level here remains, the 139.44 zone. That's what we need in order to consider, let's say, some lower areas here. And the last pair for this session is going to be euro dollar. Now, euro dollar, it has made a fantastic move, and I talked about this one last week. Basically, this is what we were targeting. We managed to hit our 1.1063 zone, so that's a perfect hit. So now you can see that the pair continues, or should I say, it seems that it's willing to continue pushing further north, but let's see how this is going to play out, because the day has just started, and it's already kind of pushing strongly to the upside. So let's be very careful with this one now, because in a way, yes, we could target here our next aim, next goal, near the 1.10 near 1.1093 level here, marked by the high of the 6th of November. Again, it's at the moment, yes, it is kind of aiming higher. Let's see if it can push, if it can continue pushing higher, and if it clears the 1.1093 zone, then that's going to be quite interesting to see, because the pair in a way could drift all the way back here towards its October highs here near the 1.1175-85 zone, roughly around there, and we'll keep an eye on those. But again, for now, yes, it is pushing above its 200 EMA and above all of its EMAs here on the 4-hour chart. Yes, there is some momentum happening here right now, and it could in a way drift all the way here towards the 1.1093 zone. But let's keep an eye on this one here still, because in a way, if it struggles to push further north, if this today's R1 level continues to hold, for example, this one, then, well, we could see a bit of a correction here to the downside. So in a way, what could happen here is something like this, guys. So keep this in mind. We may see a bit of a correction if, of course, if this area here near the 1.1063 level holds, we could see a bit of a correction maybe, but then let's say if it struggles to push back below the 1.1043 level right here, then, well, we could maybe see a bit of a nice another round of buying here, which could potentially lead towards a test of this 1.1093. We're gonna keep it short and simple for now, guys. Again, it's quite interesting to see what's gonna happen here. We are already pushing higher, and it's early morning, early European morning. And but again, don't exclude a possibility for maybe a bit of a correction here, which could lead towards the 1.1043 level. If that fails to, or should I say, no, actually the other way around, if it holds, then we could see another round of buying. If it fails, then this little territory will be somewhat of a neutral one for us, because we'll start considering lower areas if we see a drop back below the 1.1016 level right here, and of course, just for that extra confirmation, a drop below the 1.0989 level could do the trick here for more sellers. So let's keep an eye on this one, guys. Okay, guys, I really hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me later on at my traders tea time, as always, that's 14:15 GMT. For now, I hope you have a beautiful trading day, guys, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.